Welcome you to the C&C Auto Show. I'm your host, Aaron Clements. On this show, we talk about all things about transportation, whether you're a car enthusiast, maybe looking for some advice on how to maintain your vehicle, or even just someone that appreciates a good travel story. This show is for you. We'll be covering everything from automotive repairs to electric vehicles to even car insurance. So get ready, buckle up, and join us on this ride. Our guest today is Trey Allen. Trey's very active in politics, but he's joining the show today for a different reason. Trey is also a managing partner at Mantle Insurance Agency, and he's also a risk management consultant. And so on today's show, this is big now, I'll be sharing answering the questions having to do with vehicle repairs and anything that you might have to do with the vehicle maintenance. But Trey will be here answering questions having to do with car insurance, risk management. You could probably even talk him into answering other insurance questions if you wanted to. So you give us a call and join the show. The number is 800-224-9090. That's 800-224-9090. You can also watch us live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you don't mind, follow us or give us and subscribe to the channel while you're there. That would be great. Trey, welcome to the show.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We are glad you are here. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into the insurance business, and just a little bit about yourself in general.
Well, I kind of fell into the business. I'm a local boy from Augusta, Georgia here, born and raised. And I've been involved in a lot of things, kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. My family ran mom and pop shops. My dad was an entrepreneur and did a lot of different things. And so I ended up kind of becoming a jack of all and master of none myself. Got a consulting degree from UGA. Worked at Small Business Development Center for a little while and helping other small businesses accomplish their goals and grow. And that's what I enjoy doing. I've done many things from owning toy stores and convenience stores,
Wow.
truck stops over the years. And about 3 years ago, I was serving on a state board of education. And there were a couple of good friends of mine that I'd met from around the state, and they were both they were both insurance agents that had decided to partner, and they asked me to come in as an Augusta partner. I'll be honest, I didn't know, I had not been an insurance agent up to that point. My license and got in with these guys. The group's called Partners Risk Services, keyed in Gwinnett County, but down in Jessup and all throughout the Southeast. And I kind of learned a lot from them. They're a great group. And then about a year ago, locally, the Knox family in Thompson, Andy Knox, 100 years in Watson and Knox Insurance, they came to me with a proposition to join with them in a program we're doing with Maybaum Realty as a partner called Mantle Insurance. It's a new agency we're forming that's going to work all throughout the region, and we're very excited about it. We're just now getting it up and going as far as the marketing goes. We're already up and running with the process and the product. We've covered a couple hundred homes already, and almost 1,000 cars, several dozen businesses. So we're up and running.
So as people call in, you will be able to answer automotive car insurance questions, and that's what this is all about. People from other parts of the country maybe listen to the show. They may be wondering the difference between liability, collision, comprehensive, just different policies, and you will be able to help with that information, and that is exactly what we want to do. Trey, I'm going to mention something that we always do during the show at the beginning, and I'm going to go ahead and do this part, and then after that, I got several questions I'd love to ask you having to do with car insurance.
I'm here.
We normally lay a tech tip quiz out on the table, and, of course, the winner, it's kind of a big deal because the winner, they get proof that they won this tech tip quiz. And it's in the form of a coffee mug. And I've seen these things go on sale on eBay and in other places like that for huge amounts of money. I'm talking about $1.50. No. All right, here we go. Here is the tech tip quiz for today. Bill had a fully insured 2022 Ford Explorer with a nice radar detector on the dash. Someone stole the car, and even though Bill had full coverage insurance, the insurance company would not pay. Why? So if you know the answer to today's Tech Tip quiz, you give us a call. And again, that number's 800-224-9090 if you know the answer. You could be a Tech Tip quiz winner if you call in with that correct answer. Okay. This is something that I think a lot of people have some questions about. What's the difference between the comprehensive coverage and the collision coverage?
Well, the simplest answer to that would be collision is if you hit somebody or something, and comprehensive is if something or somebody hits you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not exactly accurate. Collision is if there is an accident where you're involved with, again, impact of something, usually another car, can be property, things like that. But if a tree limb, if a deer runs in front of you, if something out of the ordinary impacts your vehicle or causes damage to your vehicle, even if it's sitting in a parking lot, if you come out and there's dents and it's probably been hit by a cart or something, that would be comprehensive. Comprehensive is everything that is not covered by a standard collision.
So just an example for somebody, if they're thinking about this, if they have insurance on their vehicle, and they say, well, I just want collision coverage.
Right.
And they're riding down the road and somebody slams on brakes. They hit the back of them. Their car's messed up. The car in front of them is messed up. The vehicles would be covered.
Yes.
They're okay.
Yes.
All right. So instead, their car's sitting there on the street, and a big tree is above it, and a windstorm comes up. The tree breaks. The big limb falls down. Boom, crashes the whole middle of the car. Tree limb hanging off of each side of it. Pretty much shot. But are they covered if they only had collision coverage?
No, that would be comprehensive.
Okay.
And that's and most of your claims, most of your incidents are going to be comprehensive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the collisions tend to be much larger claims because there's more damage, but most of your claims will be comprehensive. That's why when I advise someone or I have a client, I usually encourage them to have a lower deductible on their comprehensive, because odds are if they make a claim, it's going to be a smaller claim that they're going to want a lower deductible on, and a higher deductible on their collision, because hopefully they'll have a little more control over that as the driver, and also that'll be a larger claim. So the higher the deductible, the lower the premium.
Okay, so if you, let's say that you are in a position to where a higher deductible would not be an issue with you, you could ask the person, what would my insurance coverage be or payment be if I were to increase the amount of deductible that I would pay?
Yeah, the programs, the systems we use to rate insurance now are so amazing. You can plug and play and say at 1,000.
What would you say the average deductible most people get now?
Most people get around 1,000, sometimes 1,500.
Yeah.
I've seen it higher. Again, sometimes I'll recommend a lower, maybe a $500 comprehensive. But usually around 1,000 to 1,500.
Yeah, many years ago, I used to see the 500 used to be the magic number. Everybody'd say 500. Now, I think more the magic number is more to do with the $1,000 range.
They always say you want the highest deductible you can afford. That's not always true, but usually there's a sweet spot there.
Yeah, I believe so.
That's why you need agents.
Okay, we're going to need to pull over for just a minute or two. And if you have a car question or car insurance question, you give us a call. That number, 800-224-9090. That's any Saturday morning, 8 to 10 Eastern Time. You can also catch this show live on Facebook. So don't move. We'll be right back. To answer your automotive questions, he's here to answer your car insurance questions. We also have a tech tip quiz laying out on the table. I'll go ahead and read that question again. Bill had a fully insured 2022 Ford Explorer with a nice radar detector on the dash. Someone stole the car, and even though Bill had full coverage insurance, the insurance company would not pay. Why? If you know the answer to that, you give us a call. Again, 800-224-9090. And I mentioned we're also open for questions. We're talking about insurance policies right now, different policies people may have. We talked a little bit about, we've talked about deductibles a little bit. We talked about comprehensive. We talked about collision. What if someone has let's say, a vehicle that's got some really expensive wheels on it that they've spent a lot, or some other type of add-on that would make the vehicle worth a lot more than an average vehicle would be, or even a classic car maybe?
Right. So that would be, it's literally an add-on. So when you do your insurance for your auto vehicle, you usually set the limits of what you want for the various different types of coverage. For your own personal car, it's usually calculated what we call fair market value or actual cash value. You know, they know what just like if you look at a Kelley Blue Book, they know the year and the make and the type, and they'll come up with a standard value. Now, if you have add-ons or accessories that are going to increase that value or make it much greater, you're going to want to talk to your agent about getting that, and what that's usually called an agreed upon value, where you basically agree. You come to an understanding. The car itself may be worth X, but the car with all these special accessories is going to be worth X plus 5,000.
So an example of that might be Bill has a F-250 truck, and it's a standard truck, but he's got this very expensive pressure washer system on the back that he's using for work, and so he wants the pressure washer system to be covered also, of course, if something comes up. So he would let his insurance company know that he has this special piece of equipment on the back of it, and the two of them would discuss, and of course I'm sure there's a formula for that, like
Yes.
how much that piece of equipment costs, but then they would come up with a figure that what his insurance would cost, including that pressure washer.
An agreed upon value, because and not only the actual value of the pressure washer itself, but is that the weight of that now affecting the vehicle? Is it going to possibly cause more damage in a collision? Does it make your vehicles are rated largely, especially trucks, based on their size and weight. And so, if you get to the point where you're adding those kind of accessories, chair lifts, things like that, absolutely, that can make a difference, and that has to be discussed and agreed upon.
Okay. And so that would be the same if someone had a very expensive stereo inside their vehicle, or now, if someone, let's say if someone had a vehicle and it was stolen, and they had a very expensive ring, 2-carat diamond ring in the glove box, how would insurance come into play with that?
Most of that would actually be covered through your home insurance, believe it or not.
Okay.
The items in your vehicle, your home insurance, most people think obviously just covers your dwelling. No, it usually has a lot of codifications and things inside it that cover your property as it travels with you. So in most cases, if something is stolen from your car that doesn't belong to the car, then usually that'll be a home
So if you
insurance
have
claim.
something very expensive, let's say a very expensive laptop computer, and you keep it in your vehicle most of the time, you would need to contact your homeowner's insurance agent and discuss that you want to make sure that this laptop is covered. Or instead of that, do you just take pictures of the laptop and save receipts of the laptop as proof that you own a laptop, and then if something happens, then you're able to document that, hey, I had a laptop, this is what it cost, and it was stolen out of my car.
Right, depending on the value of the if it's under usually $5,000 to $10,000, you can do it that way after the fact, but you do need to have those records. I mean, you cannot stress enough how important it is to keep those receipts, and now with everything being digital, that's easy, and you're going to probably, if it's an electronic, want to file for the coverage anyways.
That's what I was going to mention. As far as things, it's so easy to document all the things that you do now. Let's say that you have a vehicle and you know it's in great condition and you know it's got some extras there, and you're not only able to take pictures of the vehicle and store this information. Somebody might even have some type, either Dropbox or hard drive, or have some area where they can store all of their documentation of ownership of different things. And let's say pictures of the cars that you have, pictures, scan your receipts in as you have the cars repaired, because that seems to make a huge difference when they're paying a claim of some kind. Say the car's totaled out, and you say, well, I put new tires on this vehicle, I did this, I did that. I had to put a transmission in it a year ago, and so all of these things are documented. That comes in good if a person does have a claim on a vehicle. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, everything that you can show to an agent or to a carrier in insurance, that you can say, this was exactly what I had, this was the model, I want a replacement, not just a value of it. If that's a discussion you need to have with your agent also. Difference between how much that 10-year-old computer's worth now and how much it costs to get a new computer. Those are replacement versus the value, and that's fair market value, and that's things you want to discuss ahead of time.
A 10-year-old computer would probably be a very
exactly.
small fraction of what it would cost to replace it. That's true. Okay, we'll be right back with more of the C&C Auto Show. Trey Allen is here with us. He's ready to answer those car insurance questions. The number to call is 800-224-9090. That's 800-224-9090. You can also watch us live on Facebook or YouTube, Instagram, whatever works out good for you. And, Trey, we were talking a little bit during the break there about how someone needs to be very careful if they're going to put a sign, one of these little magnetic signs, I'm assuming, on the side of their vehicle that may throw them into a different insurance category.
Right. There's a difference between your personal auto, there's even commercial or business auto, and farm auto even. There's something that's called farm auto if you're using your vehicle to actually operate your farm. Traditionally, those farm and business are a little bit more expensive because they carry more liability, because they're going to, somebody thinks if there's an incident, they'll sue the business. But we've got a lot of folks that don't realize, you may have a nice pickup truck or a car that you drive around every day, and that's your daily driver. But on weekends, you have a side gig as a handyman or whatever, and you may just put a magnet on the door and think you're covered. I thought of this when you mentioned the pressure washer in the back. But if you're operating it as a business vehicle, and especially if you're advertising on it, whether it's a permanent logo or a temporary logo, a magnet, a sticker, it becomes a business vehicle, and your personal auto may not cover it.
Wow. So those are all things to check out. And a lot of these things that we mentioned, like, for instance, we're talking about it being covered under a commercial policy as opposed to a personal policy. Many times we're not talking about a huge amount more money that needs to be invested in something. It's just a matter of classifying something the correct way so that it'll save you a lot of hassles later on. So don't think that, that moves me into commercial, I'm going to have to spend a huge amount more money. That's not always, it might be sometime, but it's not always the case. But things like that can save you a huge amount of heartache if something does come up and happen, because you don't want someone to say, well, you hit the back of that person and they took a picture of your truck and it had a sign on it, and you're a commercial business, and so now we have a problem.
The dollar signs go off in the eyes and things, and that's, again, why it's important, I think, to use a local broker, a local agent.
Yeah, I think it is important to have someone that you can call and talk to and say, this is my needs, these are my needs, and let that person do a lot of the research that they need to do or answer your questions immediately. Now, how does an insurance company determine the price of a policy?
Oh, there's if I knew that, then I'd probably be working in the cyber field and the actuarials. But
so
there's
complex.
so many. It is complex. It's everything. Basically, obviously, you have the driver's history plays a lot into it. The type of car or vehicle, how it's used. A retired person that's putting on 5,000 miles a year, they're not going to have nearly the rate that a young 25-year-old that's driving 30 miles a day commuting, or is it a salesman on the road, they're going to have a much higher rate because the opportunity for them being on the road that much more is greater that something's going to happen. Again, history matters a lot. Nowadays, they have the classes that you can take online. We offer those at my brokerage where we actually have a very simple test, takes a couple hours that you can take yourself that will just kind of refresh you, refresh everybody's driving skills and things. And now so many carriers and companies, Travelers has IntelliDrive, Safeco has Right Track. Most of them have some type of
IntelliDrive, Right Track, things like that, or the plug-in things that goes into your OBD to port.
Used to be. Now they're adapting. They're adapting to an app. Most of them can now be downloaded on your phone. But yes, they used to be like a thumb drive, and there are still some that do that will plug into your car.
Okay.
And it tracks your driving. And for that, the opportunity to see that, the carrier usually gives you a pretty good discount. It can backfire depending on how you drive.
That is true.
If you know that you're a speeder and you hard brake all the time, and you should be self-aware enough to know this about yourself. If you're not driving carefully,
so if you
probably
drive really,
don't
really
want
fast all the time, and you're a kind of a bad driver, and you call to check the price on your policy, and they don't answer the phone,
right?
You know something might be wrong.
Exactly. So I mean, there's a discount given when you buy insurance and you take one of these apps or devices on your auto policy and agree to it. But a year later, down the road, the renewal, it may not have been. The term I use is penny wise, pound foolish. Short term, it might save you a little bit of money, but long term, it's going to be on your record that, well, this guy's not the best driver I've ever seen.
And I think that's what the key to a lot of stuff is looking at the record. You ready to go to a call?
Certainly.
Let's go.
Out the timing belt.
Welcome to the C&C Auto Show, and what can we help you with?
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
Well, we appreciate you giving us a call.
A couple of weeks ago, I just caught the tail end of a timing belt question that somebody had asked you, and I wanted to just further follow up on that. I have a 2008 Mazda Miata MX-5. It's got less than 29,000 miles on it. I drive it maybe a couple hundred miles every month. It's a toy. It's garage kept. But anyways, it has the original timing belt, which is now 15 years old. How critical is it that I replace that timing belt?
I would say very critical. You just don't know when the timing belt might break. It's a rubber product, so there is a mileage interval that they recommend, and there's a time interval, usually 10 years on most timing belts. And the reason it's so important is the timing belt is what's keeping the valves in time with the pistons, because as the piston's going down, say the intake valve might open. As the piston's coming up, the exhaust valve might open to push it out, and then it lets it close when it's at top dead center. So at any given time, that valve may be occupying the same space that the piston did occupy. Well, if the timing belt breaks, they occupy that space at the same time, and it's not pretty. It's pretty much that beautiful Miata the engine turns into a boat anchor. So, Not quite that bad because usually you can remove the head and take them over to Bo's machine shop. He's absolutely fantastic. And he'll get the valves all back in place and get everything all ready to go back on. Then you put the head back on. But it's not cheap. So doing that timing belt
that's
is
the
important.
problem. Yeah, the cost of it. A while back, engines used to be known as interference and non-interference, where I think that's the term, where when the timing belt breaks on non-interference engine, it just stops and nothing gets damaged.
That is correct.
Are they still classifying engines that way?
They do, but there's less of the non-interference as it used to be. Many years ago, a timing belt would break and a car would have to pull over to the side of the road. They'd pull it into the shop. They'd stick a new timing belt on there, and boom, car would be back on the road, no problem. And also back then, the timing belts would normally last about 60,000 miles. Some would go 80. Now, the timing belts go much longer. It's not uncommon to see 90, 100, 110,000 miles mileage interval on a timing belt. But there's not near as many that are non-interference now. Most of them are interference engines, mainly because they want to increase the compression ratio to give that power that the American public demands. We want power, and that means high compression, and so most timing belts, when they break, they do bend the valves.
All right, so I imagine that MX-5 then is an interference engine.
I would just about bet on it, but I wouldn't want to say for sure. We still look them up, and what makes it tricky is it's difficult. Once the timing belt breaks, it's difficult to know for sure if it bent the valves because you can't run a compression test because you don't have anything opening and closing the valves. You can do a pressure leak down test, but that means removing the valve cover, putting the valves in the closed position, putting the air on top of the piston, and seeing if it comes out. It's a little bit of a tricky job to do that. So the whole secret is don't let it break. Just have it replaced. Now, yours is a little bit different. Now, yours will fall under a little category that I normally do. Usually, if a timing belt, I'm gonna pull over for just a second. I'm gonna put you on hold. I'll be right back because you asked a great question. We'll be right back after this.
All right, thank you.
And we're back with you with the C&C Auto Show. We are talking about Miatas and timing belts, and we have Trey Allen here that's talking about car insurance. We got a lot of good stuff going on. Are you back with us?
Yes, I am.
All right. Tell me your first name again. I missed it a while ago.
Tom.
Tom. Okay, Tom. We were talking about the timing belt, and we mentioned that timing belts now have a much longer mileage interval, but the time interval is about the same, about 10 years. We mentioned about the terrible thing happens that if they break, it goes boom. Now, my thing that I was that I wanted to make sure I mentioned, in most cases, if a timing belt goes about to its full mileage interval, let's say it's usually 90, 100, 110,000 miles, we normally recommend replacing the water pump and pulleys and tensioners and all that at the same time, because by then they've got 100,000 miles on them. And even though the water pump might not be bad, it's doubtful that the water pump's going to last until you get 200,000 miles. So it's better to go ahead and replace it because it's mounted behind the timing belt. It's better to go ahead and replace it so you don't have to do it again before the timing belts do, and have to replace the timing belt all over again. So, but on yours, 29,000 miles, I think if I had that one, it's doubtful that the water pump is going to go bad before you do for your next one. I don't think I would do the water pump. I probably would do the tensioners and make sure that they're all done, so no failure with that. But I would go ahead and do the timing belt and tensioners and the serpentine belt in the front.
Okay, yeah, on my water pump, what I was concerned about, again, as far as time and deterioration, would have been if there's a gasket or an O-ring behind the water pump sealing it to the block, that maybe I'd need to pull that out and replace that piece of consumable.
Yeah, now I might get other technicians call and fuss at me about that, because some say, yeah, when you do the timing belt, you really need to do the water pump. But I really like to be open with what I would be doing on my own car. A water pump don't normally go bad due to time. It normally goes bad due to mileage. And I probably would not be replacing the water pump if it was my vehicle. But I would be doing the tensioners and the serpentine belt and the other stuff on there. And I would look close at the hoses to make sure, upper and lower hose, to make sure there's no cracking on there. But I can't say that I would necessarily be replacing my water pump. I would be changing the coolant in the cooling system at the same time, but not necessarily the water pump.
I just did that last year.
Okay. And I will tell you that I've had two of my favorite cars. Well, I'd say I've had so many absolutely beautiful cars. I've had 280Zs. I've had MG Midgets. I've had all that. Two of my favorite cars that I've ever had, one of them was a Miata. I absolutely love that car.
I had a Miata too, and I really did. They're
fun cars. They're just so much fun to drive.
The first, second generation, 2001, I think it was, 2002.
Yeah.
I love that car.
Yeah, my only issue that I had with mine is I was going on a lot of trips with it, and it wound out a little higher than I wanted it to when I go to speed that I like to go. I'm not going to say what that speed is, but I will say the RPM was racked around pretty good, and so I had to get a car with more gears.
Don't get IntelliDrive.
And
Aaron.
so now mine, now mine is I can be in fifth gear, and and the RPMs are still down a little bit lower. They're still high, but not near as high as that Miata. But that was a beautiful car. I really loved it.
I'm lucky. I've got the 6-speed and the manual, and the 6th gear is overdrive gear.
Yeah, that would do it. Maybe if I'd have had that one, that would have solved my issue. All right, you need to do like I do then, and I kind of threw that in the detective quiz. Get you a good radar detector. And I'm sitting here saying all this, talking to an insurance person. Of course,
that's what I said. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear some of that.
But yeah, get you a good radar detector if you drive that very, very much there. All right, hey, we appreciate the call. That was a great question too.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, thank you. All right, the number to call is 800-224-9090. If you have a question about car repair, or if you have a question about car insurance, you give us a call, because we are ready for you. Trey, let's go to the next call?
Certainly.
We're ready. Here we go. Be still. Okay, here we go. The little thing's twirling around, and we have Ken. Welcome to the C&C Auto Show.
I got an answer, I think, for your tech tip quiz.
Oh, my goodness.
Boy.
You know what we got to do before you get up there? Don't walk up there yet. Hold on. We got to do this. All right, now you can walk up the stage, and we have to read the quiz, and that is, Bill had a fully insured 2022 Ford Explorer with a really nice radar detector on the dash. Someone stole the car, and even though Bill had full coverage insurance, the insurance company would not pay. Why?
Is it possible that there was not enough damage done to meet his deductible, so they don't need it to pay anything?
Well, if they stole the car, though, I mean, it really, they might not have had
maybe
any
no damage was done.
Yeah, but the car was stolen. Let me see. I tell you what, I can't. I'm not the one that makes the decision here. All I do is it's a pass-through deal. So I'm gonna run it past the judges anyway. See what they say. Oh wait. Oh my goodness! What in the world happened? All right, hey Ken. It's pretty obvious what they're saying. I didn't mean to push that other deal. All
right.
But that was a good try. You really gave it a good shot, and you were trailing in there the part about not much damage done. You're in the ballpark. We'll put it that way.
All right. You
Okay.
got time for a question about
I do.
insurance?
I would love a question from you.
How do you know when you should drop your deductible? I mean, your collision damage
I
on your
love
car?
that question. That is great.
How do you know when you should drop the collision damage on your car?
Right,
Coverage.
the collision coverage. Say you got a car that's over 10 years old
Right.
now.
So you're just talking about, you're always going to maintain liability. You're talking about
Right.
covering the value of the car. At some point, is it worth paying the insurance for an older car that is not going to cost a whole lot, that you either won't replace or that is not going to cost a lot to replace because maybe you've got a friend like Aaron that can help you fix it yourself for the parts.
Well, I'm going to give an even more perfect example, Trey, because this is an actual scenario. My car's older. It was mine's a 2000 model, Z3. I love that car. Absolutely love it. Well, I made the decision to drop my full coverage. I never got the full coverage. I only got liability because I said, well, if something happens, it probably won't pay that much anyway.
Right.
So I hit a deer, and I end up having to pay to fix my car myself. But I guess I think what he's asking is there a time that you hit to where it's time to say, hey, I no longer want to have my full coverage?
Well, I mean, that's up to each individual, obviously. I mean, I have a 20-year-old Honda Accord that my 18-year-old daughter drives, and I do not have full coverage on that because she's going to drive with dents, as far as I'm concerned, if she has a minor incident. But, I mean, you always have to have the Georgia requirements for limits are 25, 50, 25 for liability. But as far as the value of your car, that's really up to the individual. Depends on how much they like the older car. A car will be totaled around 65 to 70% of its value. If it's in an incident and it loses up to 65 or 75%, or if it has water in the cabin, that usually does it too. So those are things to consider. If you're looking at as a personal decision, I would probably put it at the same valuation as a total of maybe 65 to 70%. And then you calculate, how much longer you plan to have the car and what your premium is going to cost.
Trey, do you think that a person's financial? Hey, we're going to be right back after this. I'm going to put you on hold, but we will come right back because that's a great question. And we do welcome you to the C&C Auto Show. This is hour 2 of the C&C Auto Show. We have had a great hour 1. We have been getting questions having to do with automotive repair, but we also have been getting questions having to do with car insurance. And luckily we have Trey Allen here. He's with Mantle Insurance, and he has been answering those automotive questions that we had. And for instance, we do have Ken on the line with us right now. And Ken was asking the question, when do you drop your full coverage insurance on a vehicle? And I mentioned to him that I had to make that decision. And mine didn't turn out as well as I wanted it to be because I said, well, I'm a careful driver. It's unlikely that I'll have an accident. So I didn't have full coverage on my little Z3. And I hit a deer. I was riding along and the Joker jumped right in front of me. And I had to have my own car repaired. And Ken, I think that I was talking with Trey a little bit during the break there. And I think that your personal finances plays a part in that also. Like if a person has a huge amount of money in the bank, and it wouldn't be a terrible thing if they had to purchase a car. Now, of course, you wouldn't do this with a 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, even $100,000 vehicle. But if you got a car that's older, 10, 15, 20 years old, I think there is a decision point to make. And if you got money in the bank to where if something terrible happened, you could get another one. I think then that does make it a personal decision. What do you think on that, Trey?
It really is a personal decision. I mean, the argument, the rule of thumb is you always want to you want to carry as much insurance as you can afford to carry without it being a burden on you. When you're trying to value whether you want full coverage or not, there's something called the 10% rule, where you calculate if your premium is more than 10% of the car's value, if it were to be totaled, then that's probably a line in the sand that you can worry about. But there's some folks that are very sentimental. It might not be a special car or a classic car, but even if it's an old car, if they really want that car taken care of, then they want full coverage. So when that tree limb falls on it, or that cart hits it in the parking lot at the grocery, they can get it back to the way they want it.
All right.
Well, Aaron, I make a little comment. What I noticed on my insurance is that the collision, the amount you pay on the collision is much lower than the other portion of the insurance. So I think insurance companies are trying to do that now, so you don't drop the collision and save a lot of money.
Yes, and I think that's a reasonable thing to do. But of course, I also feel like that'll vary from car to car. You may run into one car that to replace that vehicle may not be as much as another vehicle. But the other thing I think to keep in mind is up to a point, the insurance, even if that car is totaled, regardless on if you have full coverage or not, they're only going to pay so much money.
Right.
In other words, the car, you might say, well, I've got this is a 20-year-old car, and it's not classified as being worth but $5,000, but I've got $10,000 invested in this car, and to buy another one, it would cost $10,000. You still going to only get somewhere around $5,000.
Ken, one of the things you mentioned that in your policy, at least, that I don't know that that's true for everyone, where the collision is lower. Insurance is going up. Auto insurance is increasing regularly, and it's going to keep doing that. I'll be honest, unfortunately, especially in Georgia, we're one of the fastest growing auto insurance rates because we've been kept down for so long. And Mr. Clements here will tell you, these cars aren't cheap to work on anymore. Mm-hmm. And we're still valuing our insurance premiums as high as they are. They're still being valued on a car that didn't have that $20,000 worth of sensors in the grill and things like that. I mean, you're in a small accident now, and it's going to cost a lot more money than it cost 10, 20 years ago. So they're seeing a lot of things go up. I do believe that they're working to try to find savings to offset that. So maybe if in your case, especially depending on where you live, if they can lower something, they're going to do that just to try to stay competitive, because all of their other limits and rates are having to go up. And here in Georgia, especially, like I said, we're the fastest growing auto increases, and that's unfortunate.
I didn't need to hear that, Trey.
Well,
before you go, Aaron, could I get another crack at the tech tip quiz?
Oh, yeah, but you got to be still because I got to put you on stage. Don't move.
Oh, I'm not there yet.
Okay, you are on stage. All eyes are on you. Let me read the question real quick. Bill had a fully insured 2022 Ford Explorer with a very nice radar detector on the dash. Someone stole the car, and even though Bill had full coverage insurance, the insurance company would not pay. Why? And Ken, all eyes are on you. What is the answer to today's Tech Tip quiz?
Is it possible that the radar detector was the only thing that was stolen, and the insurance company doesn't pay on radar detectors? That goes on your homeowner's policy?
Well, they actually didn't pay anything. I mean, they
That's why they didn't pay for the stolen radar detector, because it goes on your homeowner's policy.
Yeah, but the whole car, the whole Ford Explorer was stolen.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe just the radar detector.
No. The whole car, the whole vehicle, gone. Boom.
All right, I'll have to try another time. Thanks a lot for the answer.
Hey, wait.
What? Oh, yeah, you forgot that.
I did. Okay.
Thanks, Ken. I appreciate it.
Hey, great question.
That was a great question.
Okay, the number to call is 800-224-9090. If you got a question about your car, your truck, or your SUV, all you got to do is give us a call. We're talking about automotive repair, and we're also talking about things to do with insurance, car insurance. So if you have a question, you give us a call, and we are ready to you. Trey, if, what steps should someone take? Let's say they've been involved in an accident, and let's say the vehicles are damaged, and we won't get into the medical side of it. We'll get into more of the automotive side of it right now.
Right.
But what's the claim process? What do they do next?
Well, first thing is you remain calm, and whether you're at fault or whether someone else was at fault and you were hit, you want to make sure that you get all the information you can. If it's an incident that happened on public roadways, then obviously there's got to be a police report. If it happens in a private parking lot or private property, you still want to call the police, and you want to get the standard form that they give you to be filled out. So you'll have something to give to the insurance company. And then you call your carrier. You call the carrier you're with first, usually. That's the proper procedure, because they're going to want to get a file started immediately. And then, of course, I would recommend, as an agent, I would want you to call me and let me know and see if there's anything I can do to help you. Your carrier being if you're insured by Auto Owners or Travelers or Cincinnati or Safeco or whoever, and then your agent being the person that actually you deal with on your insurance.
And most of them have a thing that if you have a claim, press 2 or something like
Yes.
that, and you can report it. Trey, I'm going to mention something. I'm going to back up just a little bit. Beep, beep, beep. But you had mentioned that the officer comes to the scene. Now, this is just my thoughts on the matter. I think so many times an officer comes to the scene and somebody just starts spilling their guts about everything. I was in a hurry. I was doing this. I was doing that. And I did that. And to me, a lot of times it's a lot better. Just state the facts. I was going this direction. I was going this speed. And this is what, and of course, I definitely always be honest with everything that's going on. But don't give a whole lot of extra information on the deal, because all the things that you're saying can be used against you
Absolutely.
later on.
You don't have to volunteer anything beyond the facts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not an attorney. I haven't slept in a Holiday Inn Express lately, so I can't answer that. But most of my friends who are attorneys will tell you, you don't need to volunteer more information than is necessary.
Yeah, and it really does very little, if any, good to argue. We're going to be right back after these messages. I'm here with Trey Allen and with Mantle Insurance, and he is answering car insurance questions today. I'm going to go to the mail, and then right after that, we're going straight back to those telephones. And I mentioned that recently I got an email that was asking me on ways that a person could see better at night. They were having problems being able to navigate at night, and I tried to name as many ideas as I could. One was to clean the inside of the windshield. What happens is people go to these car washes, which are great. I go to them myself, have the exterior wash, get it all looking nice and good, but they never do the inside of their windshield. A film builds up, and it's really so gradual you don't notice it. Then you're riding down the road at night, and you can't really see, and you think something's wrong with your eyes, and in reality, the inside of the windshield has a film on it. So I definitely would recommend doing that. But the next thing I'd recommend is the Peak Power Vision Gold headlamps. They provide a beautiful white, brighter light. And after that, I recommend installing the Peak Optics wiper blades, because they kind of go with the contour of the windshield when they're wiping, and they clean the windshield really nice. And so if you got darkness and rain on the windshield, that really can mess you up. So doing that cleans it really well. And then finally, the Peak All-in-One Premium Windshield Wash. And that does a great job of washing the windshield. It improves the visibility. And, of course, in the colder winter months, it keeps your windshield washer from freezing too. So those items from Peak, they're great. They will help you a tremendous amount with your vision at night. Make it where you can drive for many, many years. Ready to go to the calls, Trey?
Absolutely,
All
sir.
right, let's do it. Wow, this is going to be a tough decision here. We're going to be fair. We're going to do it by the minutes here. Okay, we will go to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, welcome to the C&C Auto Show.
Thank you.
What can we help with?
Well, I was trying to take a stab at the tech tip question.
Oh, Elizabeth, you be still. Don't move. Elizabeth, you are on stage. I'm going to read the question. Bill had a fully insured 2022 Ford Explorer with a nice radar detector on the dash. Someone stole the car, and even though Bill had full coverage insurance, the insurance company would not pay. Why? Elizabeth, all eyes are on you. What's the answer?
I think it's because the radar detector was illegal or something that the company wouldn't cover.
Wow. But the car itself, they stole the whole car.
But some insurance companies say that is illegal because you're
Oh,
going
because it had the detector in there, they were not going to pay. Let me run that past the judges. Let's see what they say. Okay, they're all looking. They're bending over, talking to each other, discussing it, and they're coming up with the answer. Oh, Elizabeth, I am so sorry. Oh,
shucks.
But you are welcome to call back and give it another shot. All right.
Okie doke.
Hey, we appreciate
Thank
your
you.
call very much. Okay, the number to call, 800-224-9090. If you've got a question about your car, your truck, your SUV, that's an automotive repair question or an insurance question, just like there's a chance that Brian might have. Brian, welcome to the C&C Auto Show, and what can we help you with?
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Trey. So I have a good question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a nice little race trailer and a nice little race car that was proud to carry the C&C Auto Show logo for a few years. But my question is there any kind of insurance to put on that trailer and that car when it's either parked in storage where it's kept or in transport?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That would probably be a special type of coverage that I'd have to look at. I'll be honest, I haven't covered a race car that's all around on a trailer before. But yes, there's definitely a particular type of insurance for that. As far as its storage would be concerned, the location that we call it being garaged, the location that it's garaged in just is part of the standard policy. They always ask that, is your personal car kept at home? Is it kept in a if you're in a big city, it may be kept in a garage. So that part's standard. There would be a separate policy for the trailer. Well, no, the trailer could be an add-on. I honestly, that's a great question. I'd have to really look into that. Go ahead.
Hey, Brian, I was going to ask him one other question. Now, would the coverage that he gets on his car? Now, Brian is on a dirt track,
Right.
Running on a regular basis. Is that dirt or asphalt, there, Brian?
It's dirt. You're correct.
That's what I was thinking. I remembered it being dirt. A beautiful race car. This is Brian Funk. He has just a absolutely beautiful race car. Does very well. And now, if he gets the insurance on it, are you going to cover while he's racing if he happens to bump into another car on the track?
Well, that's called a business action, and I'm not 100% sure how. Like I said, I've never insured a race car before, but I'd love the opportunity, Brian. I'd love to look at it for you. I can tell you since.
And guys, I wouldn't even expect it to cover anything on the track incidents, but my concern, especially with it not being kept at my home, or my homeowner's insurance would cover it on my property, is what happens if this trailer or car gets stolen, or what happens if it.
That part was that was a joke, Brian. Hey, Brian, we're going to be right back because I want you to also. Trey had something to add, but I want you to also update us on your racing season while we got you there. So we'll be right back. automotive repair questions. And we have Trey Allen here answering of Mantle Insurance. He's answering automotive insurance questions. And we have Brian on the line with us. And I'm hoping that Brian will also tell us a little bit about his racing season once I think, Brian, you were asking one other question to do with insurance or clarifying something. And once you do that, I was hoping you could update us on your car on how you've been doing with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate y'all taking the question and asking for the update. But yeah, I'm just curious because I do not keep the car on my home owner's site. So, I just have that concern, and I try to do other things to protect and know where it is at all times without 100% saying what I have going on with it.
Well, Brian, there's something called inland marine, which is basically, it's kind of a strange name. You hear marine, you think boat, but it's inland marine. And it basically covers anything that moves, that supplies, equipment, things like that. Your car would probably be more along those lines than an auto policy because you're not driving on the street. You're not, odds of you being in an accident other than on the track is very negligible. So the more I think about it, it's not really even an auto policy. It's probably more of a specialized inland marine policy.
Okay. And to get more information about that, would I just give you a call? Or?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. I really appreciate you taking that question.
Well, Brian, we're wondering how you've been doing with the car. What's your have you started the racing season?
Well, Aaron, we have. It was a slower start this year because the rain washed out a couple early ones. But we actually built a new car 2 years ago now. Same class I was running, but we've run a couple series events. We're currently fourth in points. Actually, for the last series event, we started on the pole, had a really good run. Unfortunately, wasn't able to pull off the win, but we're getting more confidence in the car every day, and we're so happy to have I think we have 7 local partners on board the car this year with us, and very blessed to have that.
Fantastic. Well, Brian, if you would keep us posted on how you're doing throughout the year, and I hope that you'll join us on the show in the coming months to give us a live update of how you're doing.
Absolutely, Aaron. Feel free to reach out to me, and I really appreciate y'all taking the time.
Well, I love what you're doing. You are in a fun sport, and look forward to keeping track of how you're doing.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good
Thank
luck
you,
and be
Brian.
careful out there, Brian.
Okay. He's got a beautiful car. He brought it here. I looked at it one time. Just looks wonderful. And we'll be talking with him again in the coming weeks or months. Okay, let's go to the next caller. Why don't we go over to, and we have James. James, welcome to the C&C Auto Show. And what can we help with?
Very interesting show today, folks. Insurance and so forth, a lot of aspects to it. And
Yes.
trying to figure out if I have a question or so. I do have a question, but I also trying to figure out if I have an incorrect answer for your tech tip quiz, and we'll let your guest decide which order you want to take it.
Let's go with the question. Yeah, Trey is ready. Trey is sitting here. He's got an ink pen in his hand. He's got a notepad in front of him, and he is ready to write your question down and answer your question. What is it?
Does it make a difference these days whether you're driving a newer car with the electronic interface to the manufacturer or an older car without, with respect to measurement of exposure on driving habits and vehicle positioning, since the vehicles now can, and I think they do, the newer ones, give a fairly accurate recording of where you are and maybe even how fast you're going and where you're parking the car. Does the insurance companies sign on for that type of information to assist in making your premium decisions for any particular client?
That's an excellent question, James. And yes, actually, they do. That is a standard. Those are standard questions now. Now, normally when I get the information from someone to look at their policies, I get the VIN numbers, and it'll pull that information up automatically. But they do ask, does this have lane assist? Does it have driver's assist with regards to the mirror? Does it have the cruise control that monitors and maintains the distance? Yes, all of that does play in on the modern cars. The offset to that is a newer car is also going to have a little bit more cost to it. But absolutely, all of that technology is making a difference in your policies.
I'm looking a little further than that in the concept of surely the VIN will identify the vehicle components and the attributes therein, but I'm talking about the activity of the driver and where, therefore, they take their car. In other words, are they parking it in a city someplace, for example, where car thefts are high, or are they driving at excessive speeds above the speed limit, which of course also will impact exposure and so forth. I know your age has a factor because younger folks typically do things a bit more dangerously, I think, than older folks. But now I think if this data interface exists, that an insurance company can actually look at an individual, regardless of age, and decide whether the vehicle's got exposures based on positioning or driving habits that might impact their policy. Do you get that type of data?
Absolutely. So things like obviously driver's history counts, but I had mentioned earlier the carriers, the different companies, Travelers, Auto Owners, Safeco, they're coming up. They already have, or they're coming up and developing these apps that go on your phone that you can sign up for that will track your driving. For a long time, they've asked, "What is your occupation?" People ask me, "Well, why do you need to know my occupation?" Well, it matters, if you're going to be on the road a lot, if you're a salesman, if you're an engineer at SRS they're going to want to know that you're driving 30 miles every day.
Uber driver?
Absolutely. They'll absolutely. As a matter of fact, that's specific questions, whether you're a delivery or Uber driver, that they're now asking on every carrier. But yes, our rates are cheaper than Atlanta's. They are going by codes, by zip codes, and finding out the traffic kind of issues and rate of accidents that are happening in different geographical areas. Their list of how far down the rabbit hole on data they go is hard to imagine. But absolutely, that's a brilliant question, James, and all of that matters. The behavior of the driver, the occupation of the driver, the way that they're driving. Is it a pleasure car? Is it a to and from school or work car? Is it a...
James, I think the way your question can be asked in a little bit different way, Trey, is the insurance companies actually using AI to come up with a price for your insurance? In a lot of ways,
they probably are.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not on, I give them the information that I can collect, and then they rate it for me. But
because when
I'm sure that there's a lot of high-tech IT going on there.
When you're taking that much data in, it has to be processed some way.
Exactly.
And to make that decision. So, yes, it sounds very much like that to me.
And as an agent and as a broker, one of the things, I don't want to bother my clients. Somebody asked me, well, I'd like you to give me a quote. Okay. Well, I need at least your driver's information, your license number, your date of birth, and your full name and address, and I need the VINs. But I also need your occupation. I need to know whether or not you're married, how many drivers are in the house, what their ages are. Because if there's a driver in your house, you've got to insure them. It doesn't matter. You may say, I don't want my kid on my policy. Well, if they live with you, they're going to be on your policy. So there's a lot more information for the reasons you stated that I have to ask for, and I sometimes feel like I'm badgering people. And they think it should just be a simple process. Just give me a quote. Well, a lot of that matters.
Yeah. And someone may get a phone call. You may get a phone call, James, saying, James, there's going to be a 95% chance you will be hitting a deer in the morning at 9:15.
Yeah, if you live out in the country and you're making a trip on country roads every day to go back and forth from work or your farm, that'll have a factor.
Yeah. Wow.
But the distinction is that the car manufacturer's data stream is not something the insurance company has access to. You've
No.
identified a method by which the insured has an option through their own devices, the cell phone or some device like that, can agree to submit to real-time data transfer. It's not
Right, it's an option.
Okay.
Wow.
So, all right, got it.
Okay, James, we're going to pull over just for a second. We're going to be right back. Car insurance questions. I'm answering automotive repair questions. And we are talking with James. And James asked a great insurance question earlier. And I think he may has an answer to our tech tip quiz, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, James?
I have an answer, yes.
Oh, an answer. So you don't want to go out on a limb and say you have the answer right now.
I'm not going out on limbs.
All
not
right.
today.
Well, here we go. Hold on. Don't move. And the question is, Bill had a fully insured 2022 Ford Explorer with a nice radar detector on the dash. Someone stole the car, and even though Bill had full coverage, the insurance company would not pay. Why? And James, all eyes are on you. What is the answer?
Well, since insurance business is based upon exposure and loss, and the losses have to be covered, in this case, the insurance company would not pay because there was not a covered loss. And I think in this case, the vehicle was stolen, but the vehicle was recovered. And recovered without damage means that there's no loss and there's nothing to pay, regardless of the degree of coverage he had.
Okay. All right. So why wasn't there a loss?
Well, if you report a vehicle stolen, the crime occurs. Let's presume that did happen. You said it was stolen, and it was not a fraudulent thing where he hid his own car and therefore was trying to perform an act of fraud. You said it was stolen. So it was stolen, but in this case it was recovered. It was recovered.
How did they find their car?
Located without damage.
How did they find their car?
Nowadays, they don't necessarily have to find it themselves. They could if it wasn't far from where they were and they had their remote and they were pushing the button and it only got moved a short distance. But what we talked about previously about the modern electronic connectivity of the vehicles to the manufacturer through wireless connections, that the vehicle could have been spotted, located either through a device either in the vehicle, like a radar detector that might have had a sensing device built into it, a GPS type of identifier, or the vehicle itself's technology will surrender its whereabouts at any time so long as those features aren't disabled and the vehicle was found and recovered. And again, if it's recovered without damage, the insurance company has no payment that they need to make.
Let me run this in front of the judges because I think that they're all kind of scratching their head. They're all wondering, and the long table of people sitting there, and one just threw the paper down and yelling at the other one. But wait, they're coming up with an answer. Here they go. Wait.
Thank you very much.
Listen. Oh, wow. James. All right, here's the deal, James. Bill had an Apple AirTag in his glove box. He planned to put it in his daughter's little school pack, but he forgot. Instead, he just left it laying in his glove box. And after the Explorer was stolen, Bill used his cell phone to track the car down, and they had stolen tracked the car down that they had stolen, and he and they found the car at a garage, and it was ready to be stripped down and sold for parts. But instead, he got it. And so the insurance company, like you said, did not pay because they got the car back. And Bill actually took the car in and had it cleaned up a little bit. I think it cost him about $150, $200 to get it all cleaned up again because he just felt funny because it had been stolen. That's mentioned in Apple AirTags, and you can get those. What about $30, something like that? I can't remember what they are now, but it's somewhere around in that range. $30, and you can tag them to anything and track anything. And so, James, you're a winner. You do win the coffee mug, and of course, you can say that you are a multiple Tech Tip quiz winner. Congratulations.
Well done, James.
Frequent flyer. All right, good. Thanks for the good conversation on insurance. I'm sure you've helped a lot of folks today who didn't know some of the inner workings of it. And you could run that show for 4 hours and still not finish. But thanks, always entertaining.
James, thank you very much. Appreciate the call, too. Okay. The number to call is 800-224-9090. We'll be going to the next caller very shortly. I did want to mention something that we're doing a lot of in the shop right now is now's the time that we try to get as much training as we possibly can. And at one time, we used to have to travel different places to get the training we're looking for. Now we do a lot of our training online. And one place I found that gives great training to our technicians is the Shop Squad Online. It's by NGK and NTK. They have a system to where someone can go to Shop Squad Online. Technicians can actually sign up for this, or service advisors actually, and just about anybody that has to do with an automotive repair shop can sign in, and they're able to watch these videos and learn about things to do with like ignition coils to computer systems, and there's just a lot of great videos on there, and it's also a way for them to talk with each other. So Shop Squad Online, great place to go if you have it. And there was one other thing that I wanted to do before we go to the next call. I want to ask Trey a little bit about classic insurance. There's a lot of our listeners have classic cars, and they are very interested on how they should insure their vehicle.
Yeah, just real quick. There is a difference between classic or vintage car insurance and standard car insurance. If you have an older car, at least 10 years, but with some sort of historical significance, rarity, but it can be discussed with your carrier and your agent to determine whether it qualifies as a vintage car. You could actually get a serious discount on classic or vintage insurance. It tends to be a lot cheaper. If you're insuring that as a regular car, then you're probably spending a little more money than you need to, because you're not going to be driving it as much.
Many times it's on a trailer.
Many times. And you're probably going to, if you are driving it, if you're taking it to shows, you're either hauling it or you're driving it and displaying it. Unlike most cars you buy new that depreciate in value the minute you drive them off the lot and they continue to depreciate, your car may be going up in value. So you're going to want to discuss those factors with an agent or a broker. Just something to consider. I know you've got a lot of people listening that probably have collectible cars. They don't need to be paying a regular. There are specialized markets for that. Haggerty's actually a very good one. American Modern, there's several. It's worth giving an agent a call, a local agent a call to.
Yeah, I went through that when we insured the DeLorean. Okay, we are out of time. That's all for today's episode of the C&C Auto Show. Trey, I sure enjoyed you being here, and I also want to give a big thank you to our show producer in there, Mason Rogers. He's the one that flashes the light. Let me know we're out of time. We hope that you found our advice helpful and informative. Don't forget to tune in next time for more tips and more tricks on how to keep your transportation running smoothly and properly insured. Don't forget to tune in to the next time for the C&C Auto Show. Have a great week and drive safely. All right, we go to the next caller, and let's go over to the next caller, and welcome to the C&C Auto Show, and what can we help you with?
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
I can. We can hear you. You sound great.
Okay. I can't hear you, but I'm going to tell you oh, there you are. So thank you. What a great show you have every Saturday morning, sir. And great answers this morning from Mr. Allen. My question is, when it comes to that comprehensive decision, how much would replacement value factor in? I don't know if all insurance companies do that. I've heard a little bit about it. And I know we're not on the air, but I sure appreciate the minute more of your time, sir.
Michelle, thank you very much for calling in. I appreciate it. There's actually a couple of things I wish we'd had a little more time to get to. One of them is replacement value versus the actual cash value or whatever. It's usually a little bit more expensive, but it's something that you want if you can get it, to make sure that you're actually getting the parts that you want when you're having some damage repaired. You want to make sure that you're getting the actual value. Not just, as I mentioned, where some cars depreciate, most cars depreciate as time goes on. You want to get a replacement value part that is going to give you usually certified, factory certified, and you want to ask for that addition to your policy. It's a minor expense. It usually is, and most good agents will factor in and automatically give you that.
Now, Trey, is that also by
Really?
replacement value? That also means that if the whole vehicle has to be replaced, that they replace it as opposed to
Yes.
totaling it?
Yes.
Or they
Yes.
get another vehicle like it?
Right.
Okay.
The closest thing to it. Almost every car is going to be determined at fair market value. But when it comes to parts, you can ask for replacement value. The cost of getting a replacement value on a whole car is a very different animal and probably not going to happen. But when it comes to parts, whether you use factory certified parts and rather than aftermarket parts, things like that, you definitely want that. And one of the other things that I wanted to mention, if I had just if we'd had a little more time, is when people are asking you about uninsured motorist, there's a little adjustment in there that a good agent will give you. They may take it off just to save you $50 to $100 if they're trying to meet a bottom line, but something called add-on versus reduced. Nobody knows what that means unless you're in the business, but it means if somebody hits you and they don't have enough coverage, your insurance, your uninsured or underinsured motorist insurance kicks in on top of theirs if it has add-ins. So if they only have $25,000 but it did $60,000 in damage, then yours will go on top of their $25,000. If they only have $25,000 and you have reduced, then yours will come out of theirs and only pay the difference up to $25,000. So it's or vice versa. Theirs will only pay the difference up to your limit. So that's something that most agents, good agents, will take care of those things for you. The replacement cost, the add-on, but it's things that you might want to look at. And
it's good
and
to
keep
know
in
about
mind.
it so you can insure.
Very much so, yeah.
Gives you peace of mind knowing that you have it also.
Oh, I just love the answer. It's very, very helpful. And I thank you both and hope you have a great day, Trey. You'll have to come back on the show so I can call in and everybody hears that answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. You have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you for the call.
You too, and thank you for this. Thank you for this great show every Saturday. It's wonderful.
Well,
thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Bye.